movie franchise battles. Movie franchise battles. Hey guys! Today I'm concluding the battle between Jon Pertwee and Tom Baker. So it's 5 stories that go head to head. The stories are The Sea Devils versus Horror of Fang Rock, The Mutants versus Robot, Invasion of the Dinosaurs versus the Sunmakers, The Curse of Peladon versus Meglos, and finally Frontier in Space versus the Seeds of Doom. So there's a good mixture of good and bad. So let's start off with The Sea Devils. This is actually one of Jon Pertwee's best ones. It's sort of like a follow-on from Doctor Who and the Silurians from his first season. But they bring back like a new sort of like cousin race to the Silurians called the Sea Devils. And I like the design of these Sea Devils. They look so much better than the ones that they did in Warriors of the Deep. They look bloody terrible in that. But in this one they look really good. Also like the gun that the Sea Devils have, like a round circle. That's kind of unique, that weapon. There's a great iconic moment as well where the Sea Devils come out of the sea. And you see like a group of them walking out. That's one of the best moments in Doctor Who, that actually. Pertwee's on top form as well. This is sort of like midway through his era. So all the regulars are on form. They know the characters and everything. Even the Master. I think his character improves in his later stories. The Sea Devils, Frontier in Space, they seem better than his earlier ones. So it's a top-notch story, this. Unfortunately, it's up against the Horror of Fang Rock. So there's 2 really good stories up against each other. Horror of Fang Rock's excellent. I might even put it in my top 10 Doctor Who's. It's really good. Tom Baker's amazing in this story. He's really bad-tempered. He's more serious. This is from season 15. And he's teamed up with the character of Leela. They're stuck on this like lighthouse, so the settings really closed in, and there's like a group of characters. They're all good, the characters. There's a great scene where Tom realises that he's made a mistake, and instead of trapping the alien outside the lighthouse, he's trapped it in with them.
Leela, I've made a terrible mistake. I thought I'd lock the enemy out. Instead, I've locked it in with us.
They always said the beast of Fang Rock would be back.
I love that. Excellent cliffhanger. So everything about this story is top marks. It's like kind of proves how good Tom Baker's era was. Between the 2, although the Sea Devils is excellent, I've got to give it to the Horror of Fang Rock. First blood to Tom Baker. Jon Pertwee 0, Tom Baker 1. Next up's The Mutants versus Robot. The Mutants is an interesting one. Like the Pertwee era is usually earthbound, but they brought them out into outer space and on a different planet for this one. The Time Lords put them on a mission, and it's a strange story. It's all about these breed of aliens that are like transforming into mutants, but it's a normal cycle, like they all go through it. So the story involves kind of racism in a way. They call the mutants mutts. The actual mutants design looks good as well. I used to think it looked a bit naff, but when you watch it, it is good. It's especially good in like cave scenes where there's dark areas, but when it's out in the light it looks a bit naff. So overall it's a good story. It's not one of his best though. Next, that's up against Robot. This is Tom Baker's first story. It's a good one as well. Only trouble with the story is it's similar to the Pertwee era. Like you've got Unit and everything. It's not until his next story, Dark in Space, where his era takes off, literally. He goes more into outer space instead of Earth. Makes a heck of a difference. Tom's still finding his character in this story, with it just being his first story. He's not quite on form. The actual robot looks good. Makes friends with Sarah, and you feel sorry for it. The audience sympathy towards the robot. It is a good robot. I remember this story was one of the first ones that I remembered as a kid. Because I remember when Tom Baker took over, my mother reading in the paper that someone's taken over tonight from Doctor Who. I also remember the final scene when the robot turns giant, as they pour some liquid onto it and it makes it grow. Even as a kid, I thought the effects looked naff. So I was thinking, wow, that looks bad. And when you watch it today, it does look really power. But I still like it. It's got a charm to it. So between them two, the Mutants and Robot, I think I'd give it to Robot. So that's Jon Pertwee 0, Tom Baker 2. Next up, Invasion of the Dinosaurs versus the Sunmakers. Invasion of the Dinosaurs gets a lot of stick, but it doesn't deserve it. I think it's underrated. The actual effects of the dinosaurs do look a little bit corny, but they're not that bad actually.
Si no le ayuda a la fábrica, el camión no está. Estuve mi saco, me caí al suelo.
And it's more to do with the story anyway. It's about a group of people who'd rather society was gone and they'd be better off with dinosaurs. And the character of Mike Yates, he turns into a traitor at the end. That was a good twist at the time. Like, you wouldn't expect that, the audience, because they were used to him in the unit team. So I bet it really took them by surprise, that. One of the big bad points about this story is Jon Pertwee's performance is totally off. He's like sleepwalking through it. He doesn't give it any like emotion at times. That's the trouble with his last season. Like, Roger Delgado wasn't in it because he had a car accident and died. Jon Pertwee's heart wasn't in it. So with it being his last season, he doesn't really give it his all. Like, he has his moments, but overall his performance is not as good as his first 4 years. And that story's up against the Sunmakers. This is like a political satire type of story. It kind of, at the time, Edward Heath was Prime Minister and they were like making fun of him. And taxes, everyone's getting taxed. There's a lot of Doctor Who stories that are political. There's the Happiness Patrol, that was making fun of Margaret Thatcher at the time. Only recently, the Bond show have been kind of making fun of Donald Trump. Arachnids in the UK. This new story, the same character pops up again in Resolution of the Daleks, so I wonder what happens to him. But he kind of symbolises Donald Trump, so Doctor Who has done a lot of political stories in its time. Fortunately, this one doesn't really work very well. It's alright, there's some funny moments in it, but it's not one of the best. So I've got to give this to Invasion of the Dinosaurs. So Jon Pertwee's catching Tom up. It's 1 to Jon Pertwee, 2 to Tom Baker. Next up, The Curse of Peladon versus Meglos. Out of the 5 battles that I'm having, this is like a landslide to The Curse of Peladon. It's easily the best story. I did a review of it as well on my channel. It's got Ice Warriors, Ice Lord, the first story that's set on Peladon. Like, it would later be revisited in Monster of Peladon. The Ice Warriors look excellent in this story. This story's against Meglos. Meglos is a load of rubbish, to be honest. The makeup, you can see his neckline and his arm. It looks a real mess, to be honest, and the story's like not very good either. So easily the Curse of Peladon wins. So that's Jon Pertwee 2, Tom Baker 2. So it all depends on this story. The stories are Frontier in Space and The Seeds of Doom. Frontier in Space is another one I've reviewed on my channel. It's a really good one. It's got the Master in, it's got the Ogrons in, it's got the Draconians in. Even the Daleks pop up in the last episode. It's a great story. Set in a futuristic Earth. The Master's trying to create a battle between the Draconians and Earth. He's in league with the Daleks. So there's a load of good stuff in this story. I especially like the episode that's set on a moon base where the Doctor's a prisoner. It's excellent episode, that one. It's an interesting story because it follows straight on to Planet of the Daleks after it. Unfortunately, it's up against the Seeds of Doom. That's brilliant story. I'll have to do a full review of this story. It's during the Great Philip Hinchcliffe era, the first 3 years of Tom Baker. Doctor Who's at its best during this period, early Tom Baker. And this story's the last story of season 13. I think season 13 was possibly the best season of all time. It still hasn't been beaten. And this is the final story of that season, a 6-parter. It's interesting because it's kind of split into 2 sections. There's the first 2 episodes set in like an Antarctic base, and it reminds me of The Thing from Another World, where there's an alien on a snow base. Then the next 4 episodes are set in England, and that reminds me of like the Day of the Triffids. There's a great villain called Harrison Chase who prefers plants to humankind. You actually see someone turning into a plant, like a crinoid. Tom's at his most angry. He's shouting his bloody head off in this story. It's excellent. Get shouting, Scorby!
Like so.
No!
Scorby! Scorby! Scorby!
There's an excellent scene where he won't amputate this limb off this person. He says, you've got to help yourselves. It's directed by Douglas Camfield. He's the best director Doctor Who had. And he's on top form in this story. It's brilliant direction. I think I'd put this story in my top 10 as well. So I've got to give this to Tom Baker. So Tom Baker won 3 stories to 2. So good old Tom won. I thought he would. Actually do a competition sometime, do like a world championship where every Doctor faces each other Doctor. So they battle each other, get to the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and then the final. So that'd be kind of fun. I might do that sometime. So anyway, bye everyone.